That's
Um,
perfectly fine.
I just read over your consultation form.
Okay.
Seems like kind of basic obedience, but also look like some
Oh,
behavior.
sorry, 1 second.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear you for a second.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, there we go. All good now.
Okay. So, and then like it seems he gets kind of worked up when people come over. Is that correct?
Yeah, so he's good and he's really like he has pretty decent obedience. I think his recall could be a little bit better if we were going to work on something and healing. Um, when we go for walks, he tends to kind of lunge at people or other dogs, really in particular.
Hmm.
And he pulls a lot in the leash. Like if he sees a squirrel, really any distraction, he's pulling a lot.
Hmm.
And then if we just moved into a new house, so we've had people kind of in and out of the house working on various things, and he like we've gotten to the point where we just take him to canine perspective
Right.
for daycare if
Sure.
we have someone coming over, because I don't I mean he's never been aggressive or anything like that, but he definitely scares some people with like barking, and he's only 30
Sure.
pounds, he's not a pit bull, massive pit bull or something, but he definitely is really really reactive.
Right. Um, Anything else with Russ that you're trying to accomplish? Like I know you said that the healing could be better, the recall could be better, and of course behavior when people come over. Anything else?
And just in general, his barking is really bad too.
Mm.
Like he kind of will just sit at our front door, and if he sees someone outside, he'll just lunge himself at the window.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, if he sees anything outside, just the barking, and just kind of the general obedience things I was kind of mentioning.
Okay. Aside from that stuff, right? Like if you could have the you had all the control you wanted and all that stuff. Like, what does your life with Russ like look like, or what would that look like?
I mean, we both work from home. My husband and I work from home right now just due to the pandemic, but I think it'll be kind of a long-term thing. So I mean, I like to spend a lot of time with the dog. I mean, I take him for a walk, obviously every day, take him to the dog
Hmm.
park, like to do activities with him.
Hmm.
And I would just like him to be like, just a reliable part of the family,
Hmm.
and just not always having to like have anxiety of if like someone's coming over and if he's going to freak out, or if I'm trying to be on a work call and he's like going crazy barking at a squirrel in the background. Just kind of having a little bit more harmonious household, because he is a really good dog, and he's
Hmm.
an he's an Aussie. He's really, I can tell he's really smart, but maybe I'm not stimulating him enough.
Hmm.
So just maybe trying to figure out how to like make his life better too.
Gotcha. Um, if you, I know things are weird right now, but like if he could come with you to a restaurant, would he like go, like would you take him with you or?
Yeah, I mean, over the summer, I had taken him to like just get a drink with a friend sitting outside,
Mhm.
and he could not sit still,
Mhm.
underneath the table with me. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to do that with him.
Okay. And do you ever do like outdoorsy stuff, like hiking or anything like that?
We definitely go for walks, but I mean, we live in Avondale, so
Mhm.
um, I guess we could drive outside of the city to do that, but not really right now.
Sure.
But just city walks mostly.
Okay. And then you, of course, I'm assuming did research on like how we train and the approaches, the methods that we use and stuff.
Yeah, the e-collar method, and
Correct. And
yeah.
I'll explain how that works.
Mhm.
Um, but are you familiar with e-collar and what it is?
One of my coworkers uses an e-collar on his dog, and he said it has just been kind of transformational for his dog. But honestly, I'm not super familiar. I know it sends a small vibration and kind of shocks them out of whatever, um, whatever they're like fixated on. But that's really all I know.
Sure. So there's two the e-collars or the ones that we use. They do a vibration just like your cell phone,
Hmm.
which we don't use for training. It's really just to see if the collar is on, So instead of like I call it remoting, but nicking the dog or causing the stim to happen, I just grab the box and hit the vibrate. And if it's not vibrating, it died, or I forgot to charge it, or I
Hmm.
didn't turn it on or something, right?
Hmm.
And we only use vibration really if we're training a deaf dog,
Hmm.
because since they can't hear us, we need to have something to to get contact with them, and the vibration is a good way to do that. A
Mhm.
lot of dogs will actually freak out more with the vibration than they do with the e-collar stim.
Mhm.
The stimulation, which is what we use for training, is very much like a miniaturized TENS unit. Are you familiar with TENS therapy?
I'm not actually.
So they use it in sports rehabilitation therapy. They use it at chiropractor offices or at physical therapists. Um, they put these little kind of circles on the muscles, and
Mhm.
they use it to move the muscles. Okay,
Mhm.
so they can use it to build muscle strength. They can use it to break up scar tissue. It's used a lot for back pain. You know, if you go to a chiropractor and they can't if you're too tense, they'll put you on that machine to relax your muscles so that they
Mhm.
can then do their work.
Yeah.
So it's not an electrical shock. It's a current. It's an electric current, but it's not to shock the dog. It's just to stimulate the muscle. Okay,
Okay.
and most people in on the internet or whatever, people refer to it as like a shock collar. Okay,
Mhm.
which is incorrect. That comes from like the old school e-collars. They only had 5 levels, and they were very since there was only 5 levels, the intensity would increase greatly. Okay,
Mhm.
so it was like more shocking to the dog because it was so abrasive.
Mhm.
Um,
Or
whereas
collar, stuff like that.
right, and the ones that we use now have 127 levels.
Mhm.
So we have, and it's not that we have 127 more levels of power. It's 5 and 127 are the same, but I have 122 breaks. Okay,
Mm.
so I can really fine tune it to the dog. So the same thing when if you were to go to a doctor and they were to use the TENS unit on you, they have a range of levels, and what they do is they start low and they work their way up, and then you would eventually tell them like, hey, that's uncomfortable, and then they would dip it down and let the machine continue to work on your muscle in order to do its work. Okay,
Mhm.
and dog training is very much the same way. We start low and we work our way up, and then Russ essentially kind of communicates what's too high and what's too low. Because
Mhm.
if it's too low, he's not going to listen. And when it's too high, he's going to be in discomfort. Okay, so we're trying to find that middle ground.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to what you're working with here, so you have obedience, right? The healing and the come when called and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then there's the behavior stuff.
Yep.
The when people come over, obviously would be the behavior stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and I had just talked about what an e-collar is. Jeff, are you familiar with the e-collar?
No, I know are they like the shock collars?
He was just saying they're
I
not.
was just talking about that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, maybe they're not. I don't know.
No, you're fine. So I'll do a quick kind of recap so that you're aware. Um, I,
Sorry.
no, you're fine. Are you familiar with like TENS units?
No.
For exercising.
They put it on the muscles to stimulate the muscles.
Oh, yeah. I know of them. Yeah, I've never done them, but I know of them.
Okay, so they use the technology on humans. E-collars are actually that same technology.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's not electricity. It's not like a taser. It's not like sticking your finger in an outlet where you get electrocuted. It's electric, but it's not electricity. Is how I explain it. Okay, so it just stimulates the muscle. You're not actually shocking Russ. Okay, if you go online, you'll read people who say that, but that's because one, they're ignorant. They don't actually know what it is. But then two, they're trying to deter people from actually using these tools. So that's why they use the term shock. Otherwise, I mean, if I was shocking dogs, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have a career right now.
Yeah, so the shock collars are they don't work though, right? Those ones that the minute the dog kind of goes across the fence and it shocks them, right? Those aren't those
Oh,
aren't
the so electronic fence collars,
yeah those
right?
things.
So the reason why those tend not to work, or when they don't work, is because people don't fit them correctly. Okay. Anytime I've ever seen anybody use an electronic fence, the collar is not fitted correctly. Almost always. Even when they send people out to size the dog and teach the dog what it is, almost always it's not fitted correctly. So that's usually one thing. The other thing is that they usually tend to set the setting too low. So with an electronic fence, that's different than an electronic collar, because the electronic fence simply is to keep the dog inside, right? So what I always tell people is like, if you're going to use electronic fence, don't use one or two, just max it out, because you want to deter the dog from running away, right? Because once the dog gets out the yard, you potentially could lose your dog, right?
Mhm.
So the reason why we max it out there is I want to have a harsh consequence because I don't want to risk the dog running away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that electronic fences go off automatically when the dog hits a perimeter, right? With the e-collar, you're in control of what Russ feels. Okay. And the reason why it's effective is because dogs are physical animals. Dogs bite each other. Okay. So if like Russ were to be at a dog park and like, let's say he did something to another dog, like try to mount them and they didn't like it, they would either growl, snap, or bite at Russ to tell him, hey, back off, don't try to mount me. Okay. Whereas with humans, we would communicate, say, hey, you're too close, you're in my personal space, right? And then if that person didn't respond and it kept harassing us, it could potentially escalate to physicality, right? So for dogs, they tend to opt for physicality faster because that's their language. They don't have words like we do, okay? So e-collar is what I refer to a lot of people as a bite on a button, right? So like, let's say, like for instance, I just got off another call with another consultation, and his dog was at the dog park and they were playing and biting each other in a playful manner, but then it started to escalate. And I told him, with the e-collar, you could essentially bite your dog with the collar on a low setting to calm your dog back down so that it doesn't keep escalating. Okay. So dogs biting each other is like the human equivalent of like spanking a child. Okay. That's their form of discipline. So when it comes to stopping or deterring behaviors, we use physical means, right? So like when you said like for instance with people coming in and him like getting really riled up, that behavior is actually normal.
Okay.
He's being territorial, most likely territorial, than getting overexcited.
Yeah, it's never when friends come over or anything. It's like, if someone was coming to work on the sink or,
somebody new. I mean, he gets excited if anybody comes in, but the excitement goes towards like, if he knows you, it's jumping around and excited and pet meat towards, there's like a different growl when it's somebody else.
Yeah, it's like very intense kind of barking.
And that's the territorial aspect, right? Because oh, it's the plumber. Right, we scheduled an appointment at 12:30. So when that person shows up, it's nothing up the ordinary to you. But for Russ, he's like, "Who are you?" Right, and it sounds stupid, but when you open the door to let your guest in, he doesn't know that that's by invitation. Okay, it's just like, who let the threat in? Okay, so that's why he triggers into the growling. Because he's saying, I'm unsure about you. What are you doing in our home? Because I'm not used to seeing you.
Maybe this is a dumb question. How does he know? Does he know that it's a friend by the smell? And
repetition. Right? So like, let's say you have a brother or sister, mom, dad, who comes over on a regular basis. There's somewhat of a norm to that. Right?
I guess he met most of our friends, when he was a puppy before COVID, when we were, socializing a lot more. And so that's probably why.
Yeah, he never gets that.
And that as well. Yeah. So that's why I say it's normal. Because
there are some weird things. Like, I mean, like even if Jeff sometimes, like obviously like we're both home with him all the time, but sometimes even if Jeff goes to give me a hug or something, Russ will start barking crazy at him.
But he is, me and Russ, like we play a lot all the time, and maybe I play with him, like I joke around, and I like chase him, and I do like dog stuff. But if I go and hug her for an extended period of time, he like will bark and like as if like she's the pack leader and like get away.
Sure, it can be possession based. It can also be just him getting overstimulated. Which I think for you guys, a lot of what you're saying is due to overstimulation. Okay,
I could see that.
Which is not uncommon. Overstimulation is typically comes from like a lack of like formal boundaries. right?
Mhm.
So not to say that you haven't established boundaries, they're just not boundaries that he understands and respects. Okay.
We should probably have more boundaries, I would say.
Excuse me?
We could probably have more boundaries with him.
Oh
Like
yeah.
our
Well,
best, but not
because
always.
typically when it comes to dogs and the good dog versus the bad dog, typically for like the bad dog, they are categorized as dogs that are aggressive, right? So as long as the dog's not aggressive, they tend to be dubbed good dogs, right? And especially like they don't need to know like sit or down or anything like that. They're just like they're friendly. They don't bark a lot, they like our friends. They're low maintenance or whatever. That tends to be what people consider a good dog, right?
Mhm.
And for me, a good dog would be a dog that's that stuff, but also is like obedient, right? As long as there's no aggression. Like I had a case where the dog had really bad separation anxiety and would howl and bark and all that stuff. And the owner kept saying, he's a good dog. He just barks, right, when I leave. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a good dog to me. That sounds like a dog that has some issues.
Kind of like what we're saying at the beginning. He's a great dog, but he has all these things.
Yes, right. And because Russ, 99% of the time is a good dog,
Mhm.
except when you hit certain contexts, right?
Mhm.
And then there's some problems there, and it's normal. So then it's a matter of just like knowing what to do in those moments, how to address him, how to stop behaviors that we don't want, and of course, just formal obedience, which is easy
Mhm.
because dogs weren't put on this earth for us to tell them to sit and them to sit.
Mhm.
That's something that we've created in order to be able to control our dogs,
Mhm.
right? So, any questions so far?
No, all of this is making perfect
Making
sense.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start with the obedience and I'll kind of just transition over to the behavior stuff.
Mhm.
Um, the heel, when it comes to obedience, is the first thing that we cover. And actually, in your case, I would see what does the exercise of heel fix.
Mhm.
Okay. So a lot of times when I get cases like Russ that have overstimulation issues, it's just lack of boundaries, lack of formal discipline,
Mhm.
being corrected for things. So once we cover the healing exercise, and so my style of heal is if I take 5 steps, the dog takes 5 steps, I take 1 step, they take 1 step. When I stop, they automatically sit with no tension in the leash, and I don't care what the environment is. Okay.
Mhm.
Which sounds very complicated, but it's actually very easy.
Mhm.
It's all done through the e-collar and discipline. Is when I get cases like Russ, we cover that. I give the owner their homework and I'll say, come back in a week and we'll see what the progress is.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, like 70% of problems go away.
Mhm.
Okay. Just through that one exercise.
Wow.
Okay. Because it's just the lack of discipline.
Mhm.
Okay. So once we start to do that, the dogs start to change. Um, Something that wouldn't be affected by it would be his behavior when unknown guests come over, because that's a separate
Mhm.
context. Okay, that's someone entering the home that he does not know. So that's normal. But other stuff, like let's say the barking when you hug and stuff like that, that could go away because I think
Mhm.
that's an overstimulation issue. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, Potentially barking out the window or whatever could also go away because
Mhm.
that's just him like unable to settle and there's stimuli going on outside and he's barking like
Mhm.
as a means of like, hey, I'm here, because he
Is
doesn't
that
have.
is that what that when you say overstimulation? Because some of them almost like it seems like he's having an out of body, like he can't even control himself.
Yeah.
Like is that just like how young dogs are who don't have those boundaries, like, or is that a
Young,
process of
old,
the environment, or just because it's just like wild how like it's like they don't even realize what they're doing.
correct. So earlier you said you play with Russ a lot.
Yeah, when he was a puppy, I like rough him around, like we chase each
Sure.
other. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine, right? That's, you got Russ as a companion, right?
yeah,
But what you've taught Russ is an association of we do a lot of fun, exciting things in the home.
yeah.
Right? Now, for me, my dogs are calm in the home.
Mhm.
Okay, they can do
That's what I would prefer.
they can do fun, exciting things at the dog park,
Mhm.
at the park, right? When we go for a hike or whatever,
Mhm.
that's when they can do that stuff. So it's kind of like look at Russ as like a little 3 to 4 year old child.
Mhm.
Is for me growing up, if I got too loud, my mom would say, "Take it outside."
Mhm.
Yeah, you can play in the home to a degree, but if it gets too loud, you're going outside with your friends,
Mhm.
right? So she was separating that. if we went to church, I wasn't running around church,
Mhm.
right? I had to sit still and be quiet and behave myself. And if we went to the park across the street, then I could run around and get that energy out, right? So it's the same thing for Russ. We've created an association of we do fun, exciting things here, and it's kind of kept them in this kind of headspace. But then when you add on, when you remove yourself, because you're a human, you go, okay, I'm done, right? And you walk off to do something else. He's like, but I still need something to do. Bark out the window, bark at sounds outside the door, things like that. So not, yeah, what you're doing isn't bad. It's just created this, right?
Yeah, she'll usually say, because I mean, maybe I've done this. Well, we'll run around the house, me and Russ, or we'll do those things, and she'll say you can't do that, and then I'll just like walk away and I'll go back to do my work.
And I'm like, thanks, you got them all riled up, and now like.
But it was just fun. But I guess I was treating him.
Or like the uncle or aunt that gives the kid too much sugar and then like back to the parents.
Yeah. But that's reversible, right?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay.
He just needs discipline. So I'm not opposed to you playing with Russ and enjoying Russ and living the life of like going out and doing fun stuff with him. Yes. But we also need discipline.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing with kids. Like me growing up, I was raised old school, I was spanked. But I did fun stuff with my mom. But if I got out of line, I also got spanked.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what kept me in the middle. If she only gave me what I wanted all the time, obviously we know what that creates, right?
Whiny children, which is like,
Exactly.
the same with dogs. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah. So because dogs have a learning capacity of a 3 to 4 year old child, so that I just tell people look at them that way, right? So the problem with it's not so much humanizing dogs, is that people babyize dogs. Human babies have no concept of right and wrong. They don't have motor skills. So like growing up, I remember my aunt, one of her babies ripped out an earring from her ear. Okay. And it was an infant, maybe a few months. She was very angry, but she couldn't spank the baby because it was like a 4-month-old baby. Right. And had no idea of what they did. Dogs, however, as young as 3 to 4 weeks, will start being corrected by the mother or the litter mates. They start to learn the concept of what they can and can't do, which is like a 3 to 4 year old child concept. Okay, so 3 to 4 years old, we start putting limitations and rules and consequences to children and stuff. Dogs do the same thing, but as young as 3 to 4 weeks, because that's when they're already kind of in that learning capacity. Okay, so when people get their dogs, they're thinking, "Oh, you're a baby, like you don't know right from wrong and this and that." Like not till like you're older. No, 3 to 4 weeks, we can already start putting rules to them. So like if I have a 2-month-old puppy, most people think, oh, they're puppies, they're crazy, they're barking and chewing and jumping all over the things. I'm like, if you let them. But if I correct them like the mom would, and do like the human version of dog spanking, I'm not going to have that. Okay. And there's a video on the internet. It's I believe a golden retriever or yellow lab, and she's outside of the room, and you see like 8 puppies, being puppies, running and barking and whining and crying and stuff. And she walks in, and they kind of just run towards her, the nurse, right? And they're loud. And all of a sudden, you see her growling and showing her teeth.
I saw that video.
Yes.
And they just.
I think you showed me that.
I think I showed. I was like, whoa, this is how it is.
That mom meant
business.
Yeah.
That's it, right? And I love that video so much because people think, oh, it's a puppy, you can't do that, you can't correct them. I'm like, watch this video. That's Mother Nature. Okay? And that's why dogs have problems. Okay, this is why Russ has overstimulation issues, because he's not had that. Okay? So it doesn't make you mean to discipline him. Right? It's about how you're applying the discipline. If you're applying it to be mean and out of meanness, then yes, it is mean. But if we're applying it to teach a lesson and deter a behavior that we don't want, it's not mean. It's just a way of life. Okay. So
we'll respond like, if he's jumping on the couch and throwing himself at the window, I go over and say, hey, like get down. He will get down, but then 2 seconds later he's back.
He's back up,
And that's the part, right? So like you're doing human discipline.
Got it.
You're not doing dog discipline. Okay. So like with human consequence, like you guys drive. Okay. So like running a red light's like $100 ticket, I think, maybe $150. imagine if it was like a $5,000 ticket and you were in a red light. You gonna do it again?
I don't think it would do
No,
that again.
yeah.
No, you're probably not gonna do it at all, right?
No,
Right.
The
exactly.
consequence is so extreme.
Mhm.
So for a dog, when you go, hey, no, off, right?
Yeah.
His mom would bite him.
Mhm.
So hey, no, off, and physically being bitten are
Mhm.
worlds apart.
He's like, oh, whatever. They told me to get off. I'll get off for a
Yeah,
second.
we bite each other, sure, whatever. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why, and what I want is that when we correct something, again, we don't want to see it again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. That's the way I approach things is when I correct something, I don't want to see him barking out the window again.
Mhm.
Okay. Now he is a dog, right? He's not like a human where like right now, like if you're aware of those $5,000 ticket for running a red light, you would just go, not going to do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dogs aren't like that. Okay.
Mhm.
Dogs are about within the moment. So if he performed a behavior, the consequence has to happen as he's performing the behavior. You can't sit him down and say, Russ, you're driving us crazy. Okay. If you keep doing this, we're gonna take away your toys. Or
Yeah.
no more dog park, no more treats, right? He's not gonna understand that concept.
Mhm.
He needs a physical consequence to the degree that he goes, you're like, you know what? Barking out the window kind of sucks and I'm not gonna do it again.
Mhm.
Okay. And again, we're not doing this out of meanness. We're doing this so that he doesn't drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's not going to make him not like you. It's not going to make him love you any less because people always worry about that. My mom, again, I was raised old school. I was spanked. Love my mom.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Because you balance things out because you play with him, you walk him, you feed him, you go to the dog park. But then
Mhm.
on the other side, you go, if you do something we don't want, we will correct you. And
Mhm.
you have that balance. Okay. Typically, like back when I used to train dogs myself at the where I would like come to your home and stuff, the dog would always like shape up when I would come over because they're like, whenever Jesse comes over, it's 100% discipline. So they never liked me because all they knew of me was discipline.
Yeah.
You know, but if I were to take that dog home and they would see like, oh wow, you're not always a jerk. Like you,
Oh, you're kind of
like,
cool.
yeah, you know, you do other stuff. It's not just pure discipline. It balances things out. Okay. So for Russ here, definitely the first thing we cover is the healing exercise.
Mhm.
And we see, because one that teaches you how the e-collar works, it teaches Russ how the e-collar works.
Mhm.
And then we see you week 2 and I go, how's it going? You would tell me all the progress you made, things where you're still having issues. And then, you know, behaviorally, if there's still issues, I might say like, okay, don't worry about it. We're going to make some adjustments today. We're going to work on the second half of heal. I'll see you in a week and then we'll see where we're at then. Okay.
Mhm.
Come week 3, how are we doing? Hey, Jesse, he's doing great, but you know, we're still struggling with barking out the window or he's like counter surfing or whatever. Then I would talk to you about how we correct those behaviors themselves.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's not the obedience. It's not teaching heal that's helping Russ.
Mhm.
Okay. It's the discipline. It's the e-collar. It's the muscle contraction,
Mhm.
the dog biting, right? That's actually helping him.
Mhm.
Okay. Because people tend to think like, oh, the heel, that's what helped. You know, the obedience is what helped. I go, no, no, it's the discipline behind the obedience that helps. Okay. So then if we need to cover like correcting behaviors or whatever, then I would go over that with you. It's very easy because when it comes to stopping behaviors, it's just about consequence. So growing up, like I said, I was spanked. If I didn't do my homework, if I talked back to my mom, or if I stayed up past my bedtime, spank, spank, spank.
Sounds like my household.
There you go, right? One consequence for a multitude of behaviors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same thing for dogs, right? If Russ were to bark at a dog, try to mount the dog, or maybe jump on them, bite, bite, bite.
Mhm.
That's how they would correct those behaviors. Okay.
Mhm.
So once you understand that concept and I show you and I teach you, you just apply it. Because
Mhm.
it's like, so it's easier to teach a dog what not to do because it's just aversive.
Mhm.
But it's when we have to teach them what to do, sit, down, come, right? That we have to shape.
Mhm.
Okay, that takes time because dogs aren't meant to do those things. But when it comes to stopping things, they do it amongst themselves. So it's a very easy concept to just go over and then you apply it. Okay.
Where I'd say like in our house, it's like kind of opposite. It's like stopping the behavior is difficult, but like he learns new tricks, like, in one training session.
Sure. And when it comes to, those things, like obedience is meant to be functional.
Right.
Okay. Like paw rollover and stuff, that's all fun stuff,
Yeah.
tricks and all that. But this, sit, stay, down, come, place, heel, 6 commands are meant to be functional.
Hmm.
So if I'm at the park with Russ and he's playing with 20 dogs and I call him, he's meant to come out.
Hmm.
Okay. Whereas I think now people are looking at obedience as cute tricks the dog does.
Right.
I don't think Russ. I think he definitely can do the sit. He can do the paw, all those cute things.
Roll over.
But
All
like
that, yeah.
when you call him, he'll come. But if we're at the dog park and we really need him to come to us,
He won't come.
he'll just be like, "Nah, I'm gonna go run off and do my thing. You gotta go get him."
Sure.
Sometimes he's not as he doesn't he selectively looks at you and is like, "I don't have to do it."
Like if we're at the dog park, he'll run around, he'll check back in with us all the time. But then like if he senses it's time to go, he's like, oh no, I'm not going near them. Like he just senses it.
Yeah. So that's a game now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So like growing up, my mom said we were leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play that runaway game because I knew there would be a consequence, right? So it's similar. Like when you call Russ, he's meant to return and we just go. Shouldn't be a game. Okay. So e-collar is the only tool that guarantees up to off-leash control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no other training method can do that. Food, gentle leader, prong collar, slip chain, no tool can do that because one, if you're using food, if he's playing with his buddies and he only plays with his buddies once a day or once a week, that's more rewarding than what's in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When it comes to like prong, slip chain, or gentle leader, they're great tools. But once you remove the leash, you no longer have a means of making him do something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if he's on a leash, it's easy because you have the physical control.
Mm-hmm.
But once he's off the leash, good luck.
Right.
E-collar doesn't matter on or off leash. I have a means of communication to reinforce that Russ is going to return or do what I tell him, no matter what the setting is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you like dog parks I mean, this is probably more of an open-ended question, but do you think dog parks is like something good to do with like I take him for walks pretty regularly, but we also take him to the dog park. Like, him and I will take him on weekends or
It has
whatever.
its pros and cons.
Yeah. Like, does that add to the overstimulation or like, is it better for like me just to be doing one-on-one activity, like walking or something with him?
It honestly, with the way you're having you're living life now, sans discipline,
Mm-hmm.
it adds to overstimulation.
Got it.
Okay. However, you do training, e-collar and stuff, you can do whatever you want with Russ.
Okay.
Because now you have the counter to
Mm-hmm.
balance things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he just has so much energy. I mean, he's a miniature Australian Shepherd, so he has like, a ton of energy. So I'm always worried about like getting all of his energy out in different ways. So like I notice when he goes to the dog park, when he goes to daycare, he comes home super tired. But when he goes for, a couple mile walk, he's kind of like, all right, cool. Like, tires him out for a little bit, but.
Because dogs aren't meant to be in a home.
Mm-hmm.
He's meant to be out roaming, scavenging, hunting,
Mm-hmm.
looking for a girlfriend, peeing on trees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're meant to hunt for their food, work for their food. So now, obviously, we give them kibble or raw or whatever. It's a guaranteed meal. He's not getting the like level of activity he's actually meant to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually not so much about energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lack of boundaries.
Mm.
Okay. So going back to the puppies.
Yeah.
Those puppies look like they had a lot of energy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened?
Then they snapped out of it.
Cut it out. She said, I don't want this.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do these things. And
Mm-hmm.
then they all calmed down and quieted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Russ. So
So really the discipline cures everything.
excuse me?
Having more like discipline and boundaries kind of cures those other things.
Yes. What seems like too much energy is just the lack of boundaries. If everything is an option, he's not going to stop.
See, I think that's the thing, and we notice, like if he's in the car and he's going to a familiar place like the dog park, he gets up, making noises. He's like ready to jump out the
Whining,
window. Like he's very excited, and I'm
Sure.
excited for him. But I'm like, why is he acting like this?
Like he senses we're going, you know?
It's just, he's on mountain. He's like pumped up on Mountain Dew.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's too much. He like that. His brain is just going.
Mm-hmm.
All the options, and then that's where that's coming out. And not that that's like a bad thing, right? Like because he's not doing anything wrong. He's not hurting anybody, whatever. But it's mentally unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
To be in that state, and to be in that state like constantly, it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
And overstimulation is the most common behavior issue that I deal with
Oh, okay.
with clients
So
because
there's
no one disciplines their dogs.
right.
At least not in a way that dogs respect.
Mm-hmm.
They do like the no, don't do that. I've seen people on the street like their dog like bark at a dog and they'll go like, no, you don't do that. Bad dog. We don't bark at other dogs. What's wrong with you? Right. And I'm just like, you're talking to your dog, like you're scolding your dog in English and you think this is gonna work.
I've said that to a man. I was like, maybe he doesn't speak English. And I wish he did, but he
He
doesn't.
does not understand the words that are coming out of your mouth.
When I watch like Cesar Milan and all these like dog trainers or whatever, but it's just like so hard to like implement it actually, like without, I guess that's why we're here, like without help.
Correct. Yes. And, Cesar Milan is a great resource. I can always tell when someone's been influenced by Caesar because when I would do my home to homes, I would do them and they'd just be pointing at their dog and hissing. And I'm like, you do know that Caesar does a lot more than just hiss, right? Like,
he has like that energy about him. Yeah.
The energy, like all that other stuff, right? But remote collar makes all this stuff very simple. And we would use it to shape anything behavioral. Obedience wise. The recall, the heel. If you want to take them to a restaurant, I don't know if you've probably seen in our daycare videos, like we have dogs on placemats. And so the dogs that we've trained ourselves or have had training in the past with like e-collar, we reinforce all that stuff. So, the dogs get playtime in the area. They do treadmill time for a focused exercise as opposed to running around and doing a bunch of nonsense. And then we also do duration work, which is the placemats, where they're just sitting still on the dog bed doing nothing. Okay. Which is actually challenging because, especially for a guy like Russ, he's like, I want to do something. Right. And I'm like, nope, you're going to sit still for an hour. That's challenging. Okay.
Yeah. When we see sorry, go ahead.
He has to contain himself. Right?
I was going to say, when we see the videos of like him at daycare, like sitting, when you guys make everyone sit, even though they're all clearly in playtime, I'm like, is that our dog? Like,
I'm shocked. I don't know how you guys do
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So we break up the day so that we send the dogs home tired because a lot of my clients, they would send their dogs to other daycares and they'd come home like pumped up because it was nonstop stimulation. So they get stuck. Okay. So when it comes to people coming over, I would essentially show you how to what I call claim space. So if Plumber comes over and Russ is like, who are you, growl, growl, right? He's going, I don't like you entering my home. I'm unsure about you. So he's being territorial, saying like, don't want you in here. So then you have to essentially be territorial back towards Russ and say like, hey, this is our guest. You can chill and relax. You don't need to be territorial. Okay. When we apply this to people he does know, like your friends, you said like he jumps on them and he's very excited to see them, right? Same concept. Jumping isn't the problem. Excitement is. Okay. So then this exercise, calms down the excitement. So if he's chill when the guest comes in, there's going to be no jumping because there's no excitement. Okay. And people tend to target the behavior. They go, oh, the dog's jumping. Got to stop jumping. I'm like, how about you stop the excitement? And then you don't get the jumping. Okay. You go to the root of it because stopping the jumping only covers the symptom as opposed to the root of it. Does that make sense? And it's an easy exercise. It has nothing to do with obedience. There is a command obedience wise that we could use, which is place command, which is, hey, go here, don't move. So that when Plumber comes in, if he can't leave the dog bed, he can't bother the plumber. Right. but mentally he could still be territorial and say like, you know what, yeah, I'm on my dog bed, but I still don't like you in my house.
Mhm.
Okay? So the first approach is you communicating with him and saying like, hey, thanks for letting us know, you can chill, go relax, leave the Palmer alone.
Mhm.
Okay. Questions about any of this stuff?
No, if you're able to help us,
No.
man, you'd be
Life changing.
Russ,
changing.
a dog like Russ is I see it all the time. It's easy stuff. So that's a positive.
Mhm.
Okay. So what dictates cost and length of time and all that stuff is
Mhm.
simply how much control do you want over Russ. Okay.
Mhm.
So you're in the 6, 9 to 12 week range in terms of programs.
Mhm.
If you did 6 classes, okay, it's 1 day a week for an hour. 2 classes would be on heel. We would do 2 classes on recall. We'd most likely cover the place command to give you stationary work so that you could do your restaurant stuff, or take Russ with you and he's not all over the place. And that 6th class we would use to cover people entering the home. Okay, so really the core of what you're needing. If you did the 9 week program, we would do that stuff plus more obedience commands. So there's 6 in total. The 6 week program, we'd cover 3. If you did 9, we'd cover all 6, and then push that obedience as much as we can. The 12 week program, we would cover all those commands plus the door thing or whatever. But we build it to off leash reliability, which means, you can take Russ to both an unenclosed area and an enclosed area. And I'm not worried about the dog running away. Okay.
Mhm.
That's a good. Yeah, because I still get. I don't know if Russ will ever. Maybe he would run away, but like I always get concerned that he's not yet ready to just be in a field
Mhm.
and be free yet. Because
Mhm.
Right.
I feel like he get distracted and see something and just run off.
Mhm.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And with either of these programs, 6, 9, or 12, okay, the recall, I give you the tools and the information to build it to off leash reliability.
Mhm.
You just have to do the homework.
Mhm.
Okay. That won't be done by the end of the program, no matter what program you do, because off leash recall takes a couple of months to practice because it requires you to go somewhere.
Mhm.
Okay. You have to go to the park, put Russ on a long leash, and let him be a dog and practice him coming to you. So if you always practice in a bland environment, he'll be perfect in a bland environment. But as soon as you go back to the dog park, it's going to be a problem. You
Yeah.
have to build them to that. Okay. The heel is the fastest thing that people learn, or the fastest thing the dog learns, because you walk your dog multiple times a day.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's always the fastest thing they learn. Recalls the longest to teach, and all the others sit, stay, down, in place. It's really dependent on the owner, because there are things that you can practice inside the house, but because people can practice them inside the house, they tend not to do it. Okay, because they're like, oh, I can do this whenever I want, and then they don't do it. So that's really just contingent on if you obviously practice. And it's really the way that I train is you apply this stuff as you live your life with Russ. So once you learn how to do the heel, every time you walk Russ, you practice your heel. That's how you build the reliability of it. Let's say you learn that place command when you're watching Netflix, if you're watching Hulu or whatever. Hey, we're going to be here for an hour and a half. Let's put Russ on play so he doesn't move for the next hour so we can watch this movie. And eventually we're going to build that up so that we can go to the restaurant and have Russ at the restaurant with us and he's not going to move. Right. The recall is the one that you have to actually make time to go somewhere to practice. Okay.
Mhm.
Same thing with the sit and the stay and the down. Once I teach it to you, I give you examples of how to apply it in life. And as you live your life with Russ, you're applying it. And that's what makes it functional.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, questions about that stuff?
No,
No, that all sounds great.
And Russ is 30 pounds?
Yeah, he's like 30 pounds.
30? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he'll be fine. In terms of the collar he would need is the Dogtra 280C.
Mhm.
It's meant for dogs 35 pounds and under. And Maria will send you this information as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. They're meant for 35-pound dogs and under. If you wanted to have a bit more power just in case of an emergency, there's a collar above it that's like around 287-ish with tax, and it's meant for 70-pound dogs and under. Okay. The only reason why I give people, or I'll tell them like you could opt for the higher powered one, is people don't factor in life or stressful moments. So like, let's say you're at the park with Russ and he's off leash. He's been great. You've built up the recall. He's reliable. You trust him. And then someone blows up a firework. Okay. And let's say Russ is scared of fireworks and he starts running away. Okay. He's under stress. He's in flight mode. He's in survival mode. Okay. And he's just going. You can try to call him, but if he's running for his life away from a threat, chances are he's not going to respond. Okay. Is you would need to use your e-collar to essentially make him more afraid of running away from you than he is running away from the threat. Right. So then we call this overriding the dog. Right. So the 35-pound collar is lower power because it's only meant for a small dog. Okay. The other collar is more power, and it's more so like in case something happens, I'm not worried about, well, am I going to have enough power with the smaller collar than I would with the bigger collar? Does that make sense? And it's the difference is size. The 280C is a smaller box where the 2300 is a bigger box. Okay. So if you don't care about aesthetic and like the clunkiness of it, then, you can go with the 2300. Otherwise you should be fine with the 280C. Again, the only thing that I would think I know that it would factor in terms of power is potentially something like that happening. Okay. But other than that, because there's no real behavior issues, like if you told me like Russ, like lunges and barks at everything and dogs and people and all that stuff, I'd say you want the higher powered one just because we don't want to gamble it. I'm sorry?
Oh, he does do that.
Yeah, but he's not, I'm sorry. I meant like in an aggressive fashion.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, he does it out of overexcitement.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah. So, so either one of those are an option. You can mull it over, look at them and, do your research. They're on Amazon, and then make your decision. Okay. And then Maria would of course send you the links to those models that you would need. The most common question that I get with e-collar is, when does it go away? In my opinion, when you need it, it doesn't. So anytime we're out with Russ outside of the home, because we can't account for life, we can't account for, the stimuli that are going to be in the environment, I want to know I have control over my dog. It doesn't mean that you're always using it. Okay. It just means that it's present. And in case something happens, you have a means of getting him under control. Again, going back to that firework example, right? He could be fully trained and whatever, but if that collar is off and that happens and you're like, crap, I didn't think someone was going to light a firework in October, which actually happened to me. But my dogs were on a leash, but then my dogs were trying to run home because they were scared of the firework. I'm not worried about if something happens. Okay. If Russ is great inside the house and you don't need it, you don't use it. If the plumber is going to come over and we know, hey, we need it, you have it. Once the plumber leaves, we remove it. Okay. And the reason why that is to give you an example, you guys drive, correct?
Yeah.
You go on the expressway?
Yep.
You go the speed limit?
No, not always.
Not always.
No, yeah, there's a little hesitation there. Yeah, I don't either, right? Most people don't go the speed limit, right? When you see a squad car, what happens though?
We slow down.
Hit the brakes, yeah.
Because you don't want to get that ticket. You don't want that consequence, right? That's what we call opportunistic behavior. Okay? All animals do it. Opportunistic behavior is based on instinct. It's based on survival, right? So like, let's say there's a pond of water and there's an alligator in the water and the animals around it know. They won't drink water. But then they see the alligator come out, everybody comes to drink water. That's opportunistic behavior. Okay, the threat is gone. Now we can safely drink water, right? So for Russ, when that collar is on, that's like the cop on the collar is how I like to refer to it. Okay, he's gonna go, okay, gotta behave myself, gotta be obedient. And if he's not, you can of course make him be obedient because we have consequence. And then when you don't need it, you remove it. He's a great dog otherwise. Okay. And this has nothing to do with the training methods. It has nothing to do with me or anything like that. It's just, again, opportunistic behavior. I think it's funny because people always go like, well, the dog should like learn to like just be a good dog and listen when I tell him, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, not even humans do that. And not even human. Like we know we don't go past 70, but we go 75, 80, if not more, right? We press the boundaries when we know there's no consequence. So if humans can't do it themselves, then why do we expect that a dog would? So, and the collars last a really long time. I've had mine about going about 8 years.
Okay.
So the smaller one runs about, I think, 237-ish with tax. The other one runs about 287-ish with tax. So about $50 difference. Fully waterproof, half-mile range to a 3/4 mile range, depending on the model. And they come with an LED screen. So even at night, when you're moving it, you can see where your number, your setting is at. And they last for years.
Mm-hmm.
The most common thing that I see is that the battery does die because it's a rechargeable lithium battery, much like your cell phone. If that happens, if it's under warranty, you send it in, get a new battery, get it back. Otherwise, you can go to the website, you can purchase the battery separately. It's like $20. You open up the collar, replace the batteries, and then you're good to go.
Got it.
Okay. Questions?
No, I was gonna ask about durability because I remember one time we got like a collar that tracks like how he walks and stuff, and his
Oh, sure.
And I remember he goes to the dog park and he was like,
The other dogs were tearing it up. Yeah.
he got
Yeah.
on the ground.
No, these collars are they're meant for hunting dogs.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they're very durable. Mine are like beat the shit just because my dogs have like done lots of like off-leash stuff or whatever. But they're perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Would you recommend the higher one? Because it seems like just even the cost is, if you look at the both of them, they're not too far off. And just having that emergency, would you recommend the higher one?
Yeah, that's kind of like if you'd rather have the peace of mind of in case something happens, it's just because Russ is a smaller dog, and it's because he's thicker coated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have to also think about the coat.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of connection. So like if he was a short coated breed and he was 30 pounds, I'd tell you to be fine with the 280C because I'm not worried about anything inhibiting the contact.
Yeah, he's got a lot.
Yeah, so because of that, going to higher power, if you're not worried about aesthetic, because he will have a box sit on his neck, he'll be perfectly fine. My Chihuahua, before I got my small collar for him, because he's 8 pounds, he's e-collar trained, I had to train him on a regular collar. So he had this big hulking box on the bottom of his neck. And his head was like this. But yeah, that's the only thing is that it looks clunky, but otherwise, it's fine.
His hair will cover it up, I'm sure.
And then the last question I had is, do dogs typically sleep with it on?
No, you only have it when you need it.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, out in your walks, when you're training time, if like the plumber, whoever's coming over, that's when he's wearing it. Otherwise, you don't need it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I mean, not that I can think of. You've been super kind of thorough about everything. This is kind of everything I was hoping to get out of this. So
yeah, one more thing. So about the courses, you said 6, 9, and 12.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure we're doing things the right way. Because what would you recommend? Like, if we want to kind of correct all the behaviors, would you say the 12-week course is probably the full-on course is the better way to go?
It depends. So look at it this way. Think of the 6-week course as I walk my dog, we go to the dog park. Okay. The 9-week course is I walk my dog, we go to dog park, I go to restaurants. The 12-week course is all that stuff, plus I go hiking and off leash and I do everything with my dog.
Yeah, see, I want to get to the point where, because when we take Russ out for long walks, we've gone hikes with him, we've always have to leash him. I've had buddies who have Aussies that they can let go. And I don't know if they're trained or not, but like I would love to be able to get to the point where like we can walk with Russ and let him
free range a bit. Like if we're in the woods or something.
That free range stuff you can get within a 6 to 9 week program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's really just how much control do you want? Like if you want a fully off leash trained dog, then 12 classes. If it's like we want a dog that we're confident is not going to run away from us, that will come when we call them, and we have these minor behavior things, 6 to 9 is perfectly fine. Okay. And also it just depends on like, if you're really doing your homework, like it's just quick progression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's because it's pretty straightforward because that's what aversives are meant for. They're meant to stop things, and of course, when it comes to obedience, if he knows there's a threat of a consequence, well, obviously he's going to be more compliant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, if you want to kind of be more secure in terms of what we're going to accomplish and not have overkill, the 9-week is always a nice middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then once we cover the stuff, like let's say we hit class 5 or whatever, and you're like, man, this is everything that we wanted, but we still have 4 classes left over. I keep teaching stuff. There's more to teach. We can obviously advance things much further. It's just, I always focus on what the owners want first. That's the priority, especially if there's behavior stuff. Get that stuff done first, and then after that, we can see what's left over to to cover with the remaining classes and stuff. Okay. Anything else?
No, this is excellent.
No. Yeah, I mean, we've had just like a great experience with you guys so far. Like, just I think the daycare that you guys do is like the best that we've ever sent him. We've sent him to maybe 1 or 2 other ones, and
yeah, thank you. We appreciate
just
that.
really impressed with what you guys do.
Yeah,
So
this is great. This is great knowledge right now. So
Yeah, no, that's why I'm here. So yeah, we appreciate it. We like having Russ. He's a good dude, and he's actually chill with us.
Is he?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, like, have you met him? Like, is he like?
Yeah, I've seen him. That's why earlier I was like, oh, I recognize that little dude. We actually had another Aussie that looks exactly like him. I don't know if you
I
saw her.
on Instagram.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw them. I was like, man, these guys look so much alike. So yeah, no, he's fine. Like, he chills in the kennel and stuff. I think the first day, which is normal, like, because we do that 3-day evaluation to get acclimate the dog to the space. He was a bit like anxious and like kind of like pacing and stuff, but we just helped him settle. And then that slow kind of introduction, and then of course the break from like the play to like resting kennel time to like structure, like going for treadmill time and all that stuff, kind of just keeps him on a neutral ground. So he's good. Like, he's not crazy or anything
Sits
like
in a
that.
kennel, like, and doesn't go crazy. Who is this dog that we have? He
doesn't do that.
Oh my God.
At home.
No, we were kennel training him for a while, and he was mostly fine, but then we moved to an apartment while our house was being built, and he just like started
crazy.
throwing himself at the door. I mean, it was bad.
Wow. Yeah. No, he's cool. He just sits there and like just observes, like, so, because that's, I don't know if you notice, our kennels are out by the play area.
Yeah.
So like the dogs will be playing and the dogs in the kennels are just watching and observing. They're passive, they're calm. So what's the benefit to that is that they can see activity and not have to be a part of it. Right? Just like, okay, like, I can see this. I don't have to be worked up. Like, I can be calm and still watch this like high energy play, going on. But that's the whole
crazy.
That's why structure is so important. People don't realize that. And that's why I invested in treadmills, because we used to do pack walks in the springtime. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
Yeah, I saw that you guys did that, but he wasn't going there at the time.
Yeah, at the time, yeah. So like, come, spring again, whatever, we'll bring that back, and that's just part of our day. It's exercise, but it's structured exercise. So he's also practicing like focus and like just passiveness while walking with a group of dogs. And then treadmill is kind of the supplement in the wintertime, because I'm from Florida and I ain't walking in the snow, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just one last question, I guess, on your training. So whatever program we decide, how does the training work? I know, like, with COVID and everything, how are you managing training?
There's 2 options. So during the summertime, we were doing training at Oz, which was great because it's so distracting. And now it's training at my facility. I still do Oz Park if the owner wants to do Oz Park. I just tell them to make sure, just to remember that we're going to be outside for an hour, because I think they don't kind of factor that in, and then they get cold or the dog gets cold. So I still work at Oz Park if you'd like to work outside, but honestly, because there's no one really at Oz Park anymore, there's really no benefit to it. Like it was in the summer where everything is going on in Oz.
Got it.
So at my facility, it's a very, that big space where the playpen area is, it's like probably about 8,000 square feet total. And the training floor is about 4,000, I think, square feet. So it's plenty of space to do recall, do leash work and all that stuff, healing exercise, plenty of space. It's all verbal instruction now. So I don't touch Russ. I just coach you through it. And then, we become filming everything. So then, like, let's say you forgot something with Russ, or like, you're like, what did Jesse say? You can just go to your video and then watch your video, go to the point where whatever it is that you forgot. If you're struggling with anything, I do use videos from like either other trainers or other clients that I've worked with, and I send them to you and go like, here, watch this video. It's very similar to what you're dealing with. So you get a visual of what you're trying to accomplish. And I'm getting the same results as I was pre-COVID.
Mhm.
Because before I used to work to train the dog in front of you, then give the dog to you, and then coach you through it. But
Mhm.
now I don't touch the dog. So you're learning everything from ground zero.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's so, because I already know how to train Russ,
Mhm.
right? I don't need more practice training dogs. So for you, it's more beneficial.
Yeah, we need
Exactly.
different.
Okay. So it's very hands-on. You're doing it all yourself. It's very common sense. It's very easy.
Mhm.
You know, and everything now is of course button based. So like e-collar itself is intuitive for everybody because we're so used to button things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Anything else?
No, so we would just, figure out a time that works for both of us or whatever, and then just get
Correct.
that.
Maria would handle that.
Yeah.
She's gonna get in contact with you. She'll kind of go over the programs, the pricing. She'll send you the names of the collars I recommended, and you can go, do a little bit more research. If you want to kind of see how it looks, just go to my YouTube channel.
Mhm.
Lesson ones are always good to watch because no one knows what they're doing, and you can see the kind of the progression of no one knows what they're doing to the end where the dog is walking at the owner's side.
Mhm.
Okay.
That
If you excuse me.
that would be great. He was walking
Yeah.
on my side.
Yeah. So it's just you go on YouTube. It's all there. I do have behavior cases that are aggression or reactivity cases. So if you watch a video like that, it's not going to look the same as Russ because Russ doesn't have those issues. Okay. So if you're like, man, this looks pretty rough, it's because we're dealing with the more difficult dog.
Mhm.
Whereas Russ is pretty straightforward. It's just overstimulation stuff and just basic obedience. So
Apparently he's chill, so we're
yeah.
learning. All right,
And,
cool.
No, we're excited. So this is great. Jesse.
Yeah.
I really appreciate
yeah.
it.
And if you have any questions, you can always reach out, and then just like, hey, forgot to ask this, whatever. Always happy to help out, whatever. But otherwise, Maria will get in contact. She'll handle all the scheduling and accounting stuff, and then we'll get you situated. Okay.
Sounds
Cool.
amazing.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure, Amanda and Jeff, to meet you guys. If you need anything else, you let us know. Otherwise, Maria will reach out. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Jesse. Have a good
Take
rest
care.
of your weekend.
You too. Bye bye.